Let me ask you something. This is for all the Star Trek fans out there. What if one of the most important captains in Star Trek history never actually left? Didn't retire, not written off, not even dead, just waiting. Because when you really go back and you look at how Deep Space Nine ended, Benjamin Sisko's story didn't close at all. It just paused, a really hard pause. And the more you think about it, the more you realize Star Trek quietly left the door wide open for his return. They've never fully taken advantage of that. What is up, everybody? Jimmy or Chaos. Welcome to Chaos Cinema. And I want to tell you guys, I did a test. We have done 3 Star Trek videos in a row and absolute just nuclear on the channel. You guys showed up. They are doing fantastic. We're growing. It almost looks like people really need a Trek channel out there. Like they need somebody that they can talk to daily and weekly when it comes to new Star Trek news, old news, everything, counting stuff down in the Trek universe. And that, I think, is what we are going to do here on Cinema. So I'm going to make you guys a deal. You keep supporting all of this Trek content. Yes, we have a video coming up where I'm going to rank every Trek movie from worst to best. And if you guys continue to support and you continue to show up in the comment section, we may just make this a Trek channel. We may rebrand it to Chaos Trek. I don't know. But I am thoroughly loving this because I have been a fan of this universe since I was about 5 years old. So I just want to put that out there. Now today, we're going to be talking about something that honestly feels overdue at this point. The possibility of Benjamin Sisko returning in a future Star Trek show or even a movie. And why, from a story standpoint, it actually makes a lot more sense than you think. And I know before you say, well, the actor that portrays Sisko has officially retired. I get that. We'll talk about it. So let's rewind here for a second. Because to understand why this would even work, you have to look at what happened at the end of Deep Space Nine. Now, let me give a spoiler alert. If you've never watched the culmination, the ending of Deep Space Nine, this is your spoiler alert because I am absolutely about to spoil what happens. Okay? I'm not talking about surface level, he disappears explanations here. At the end of the series, Sisko isn't just fighting Gul Dukat. This isn't your typical Star Trek confrontation. Dukat has fully become a vessel for the Pah-wraiths, and what we're watching at that point is basically this cosmic spiritual conflict playing out through physical characters, which was crazy because Deep Space Nine, for the most part, was a pretty grounded, kind of a darker experience at times, right? So this caught a lot of people off guard. So Sisko wins this fight, but he doesn't walk away from it. Instead, he enters the Celestial Temple, the home of the prophets. And that is the key detail that changed everything because Sisko never died. He actually transcended in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. I know, that's wild to think about. He becomes something more than human, something closer to the prophets themselves, which are beings that don't experience time in the same way we do. They actually exist outside of it. The past, present, future, all of it, it's all the same to them. And that's where Sisko is right now. Now, here's a part I think a lot of people tend to forget, or maybe they overlook it. Right before he left, Sisko tells Cassidy, I will be back. Cassidy is his wife. Now, that line was not accidental at all. Star Trek is very intentional with its endings, especially with characters like this. They don't just throw in a promise like that for no reason. That line existed because at some level, the story was never meant to feel finished. It was meant to feel unresolved. And I know the reporting out there is that he said that line had to be in there so it would always leave the door open. It looked like he would try to come back for him. So once you understand that, everything about Sisko's potential return starts to actually click into place. Because from a storytelling standpoint, he might actually be one of the easiest characters to bring back in the entire franchise. Think about it. You don't have to explain where he's been. You don't have to worry about his aging. You don't even have to stick to a specific timeline here. He exists outside of time, which means technically he could come back at any point in the entire Trek timeline. Past, present, future, it doesn't matter. And probably even different timelines. And that is something that no other captain has going for them. So I guess the obvious question becomes, if it's this easy from a story perspective, why has this not happened? I think the actor that portrays him has been retired for like 13 years, maybe even more than that. I don't even know. Maybe since 2013, something like that. But the answer is pretty simple, even if people don't always want to say it. It comes down to Avery Brooks himself. He's the actor that portrays Sisko. He stepped away from acting. He's very private. He's not out there chasing roles or doing big returns. I don't think he's out at Comic-Cons or anything doing signings or anything like that, like you see a lot of the other Star Trek actors. And that actually matters a lot because Sisko isn't a character you just casually bring back with someone else. That role is directly tied to him, and he knows it. And to Trek's credit, I think they respected that. But for me, here's where things start to get interesting, because even with that limitation, that door's not closed. Not even close. Right now, Star Trek is in a very specific phase. You can feel it. We can all feel it. We talk about it in the comment section on every video we do here. They are trying to lean into legacy again. They are going back to characters, timelines, stories that fans already have a connection to. We saw it with Picard, especially in that final season, which, funny thing, I've watched it, but I did the video the other day talking about a possible reboot and possibly them starting in the TNG timeline after Picard, and you guys loved it. So I went back and watched the end of Picard Season 3 again, and it was just as good as the first time. I mean, it wasn't just about telling a new story. It was about honoring what came before. And if you're looking at that era of Star Trek, Sisko is one of the biggest missing pieces on the board, if not the biggest. So how could that actually happen in a realistic way? Is there even a chance, or are we just kind of throwing it into the wind here? Well, I think the cleanest approach, the one that fits perfectly with canon, is simply this. The prophets send him back. That's it. That's it. It doesn't have to be any deeper. The prophets send him back. They exist outside of time. They can return Sisko to a physical world whenever they want to, for whatever reason they want to. Maybe it's a crisis. Maybe it's something tied to Bajor. Maybe it's something even bigger than that. You don't have to over-explain this. It's literally already built as a default into the current story. I mean, it is. Another approach I could do, and probably the more realistic one depending on the situation, would be a limited return. Not a full series, not a long-term commitment, but something impactful. Maybe that would bring Avery back. Maybe a movie appearance, a short arc, a moment where Sisko shows up, changes everything, and then poof, he's gone again, almost like he only appears when it matters. And honestly, that fits his character now more than anything else. And then again, everybody would love to see him on screen reuniting with his family. There's also one more subtle option here, which I think would actually be kind of cool if they wanted to go this route. Because Sisko exists outside of time right now, you don't even necessarily have to bring him back physically in the traditional sense. You could have characters interacting with him through visions, through the prophets, through moments where time isn't behaving normally. Think Star Wars and think Force visions, things like that. That could happen. He could guide events without fully stepping back into the world, and that could actually be the most accurate continuation of where his story left off, where he left us, right? But here's the thing that really separates Sisko from any other legacy character that we would love to see come back or we've already seen come back so far. Picard, I feel like Picard came back for closure, right? I don't think Sisko would do that. Sisko would come back for a purpose. His story was never about being a captain. Picard's was. This evolved him into something much bigger, something tied to destiny, belief, and the constant tension between human and being something more. I'm telling you, it got really cosmic. It got really deep by the end of Deep Space Nine, no pun intended. That's not a story that you wrap up. That is a story that you revisit when the time is right. And if you look at where Star Trek is heading right now, I think that kind of character would fit perfectly. The franchise has already started leaning into bigger, more abstract ideas. Again, we have more philosophical storytelling, more exploration of things that go beyond just ships and missions. So Sisko could sit firmly right in the middle of that. I mean, you could even argue he's more relevant now than he was back then. So I mentioned a movie. Let's talk about the movie side, okay? Because if Star Trek wants to do something that actually feels different, something that stands out, bringing Sisko back would immediately change the tone of everything. I think all of us can sit here and agree with that if we were in a room together, right? You're not just bringing back a familiar face, you're bringing back a character who at this point is almost mythological within the Trek universe. That's not about nostalgia. That's literally about scale. And by the end of the day, I think this is what it would come down to for fans. It's not just about wanting to see Sisko again, which I know a lot of you will agree with me, you want to. It's about that one line. That one line he said, "I will be back." That's been sitting there for decades, unanswered and unfinished. So is it possible we see Benjamin Sisko again from a story standpoint? Yeah, it's not just possible. It would actually be pretty easy to make it work if he was about it. From a real world standpoint, it's complicated because this one depends on whether the person behind the character would actually ever step back into it. But if it did happen, I don't think it would feel like fan service at all. I think it would feel like something special that Star Trek has quietly been holding on to with us, the fans who have been holding on to this entire time. And honestly, that could be the biggest opportunity that they haven't taken advantage of yet. So you guys let me know. Do you think it would be a win if Sisko came back? Or do you think it's like everything else? Do you consider it nostalgia bait? I personally, after the argument I've made here, I think it's more than that. I think it would be absolutely awesome if he did. Let me know what you guys think. And like I said, if you are down for Trek content, you keep supporting it like you guys have been, and I'll make this channel a Star Trek channel. I don't have a problem with it at all. I'll see you guys soon.